So I want to talk in the rest of this course about methods aimed at processing information from the conscious to the subconscious and triggering superconscious activity. In our Psychology of Achievement Phoenix seminar, we explain a law of superconscious activity that says this, that any thought, plan, goal, or idea that you can hold consciously, hold in your conscious mind on a continuing basis, must and will be brought into reality by your superconscious mind. Any thought, any plan, any goal, any idea that you can concentrate on, dwell on, hold clearly and continuously in your conscious mind must and will be brought into reality by your superconscious. So we keep going back over and over again the importance of clarity, the importance of knowing what you want, the importance of concentration, the importance of dwelling continuously on what you're trying to accomplish, and especially keeping your mind off of your problems, off of your difficulties, off of your limitations. This superconscious capability requires clarity, commitment. The superconscious mind in most cases is activated by intense emotion. The very best emotion is the emotion of desire, although the emotion of fear will also activate the superconscious mind. But in that case, it can make you sick, it can make you angry, it can cause you all kinds of problems. There are two basic types in creativity. Basically what they say is there is what is called mechanical thinking. Now, mechanical thinking is rote thinking. Mechanical thinking is automatic thinking. It's also black-white thinking. Let me give you a description. It's black-white. These are people who see things as either or, black or white, good or bad, no shades of gray in between. This is also dogmatic thinking. Dogmatic thinking means that these people have very fixed ideas that are inflexible and irreversible. It's inflexible thinking, too. It's also rigid thinking. It also tends to be pessimistic, and it looks for reasons why things won't work and don't work. Non-creative, and also the favorite words of this person are no. They have what is called psychosclerosis, which is a hardening of the attitudes. Now, the other type of thinking is what is called adaptive thinking. And this is the kind of thinking that you want to learn to engage in. Now, some people are mechanical in some things and adaptive in others. But the ideal is to become an adaptive thinker in as many things as possible. Now, an adaptive thinker has an open mind. An adaptive thinker is a person who avoids falling in love with their own ideas. An adaptive thinker has flexibility. An adaptive thinker is willing to look at many different sides of a question. An adaptive thinker is optimistic. They're optimistic in that they believe problems can be solved, and they look for happy solutions or positive solutions. An adaptive thinker is also creative. An adaptive thinker is also imaginative. An adaptive thinker recognizes that all questions remain open, and their favorite word is yes or why not. The key to becoming an adaptive thinker, the key to becoming a highly creative thinker, is to suspend judgment in as many things as possible. Suspend judgment, refrain from judging, try to keep an open mind, and if you do make a decision on it, be flexible and willing to change the decision. Number 12 is types of thinking, methods of thinking, ways of thinking. The first is visual. Some people are visual thinkers. They need pictures, graphs, charts. Some people are auditory thinkers. They need to hear it. They say, doesn't sound good to me, or that does sound good to me. And the third are kinesthetic. Kinesthetic are people who think as a result of their feelings or movement. Now, when you're working on a problem, try them all. Write things down, talk out loud, walk around and move, do all kinds of things. Sometimes going for a walk in the park is a tremendous way for a kinesthetic thinker to get breakthroughs. Sometimes looking at pictures or drawing graphs and diagrams is a wonderful way for a visual thinker to get breakthroughs. And sometimes saying it aloud or hearing it aloud or discussing or dialoguing about it is a way for an auditory thinker. And each of us thinks in all three of these ways, but we all have a predominant, or if you like, a favorite way of thinking. So try all three when you're dealing, especially with a group of people. Assume that different people in the group are going to be appealed to in different ways. Sometimes you could give people pages of figures when they won't even look at them at all because they're auditory or kinesthetic, they're not visual. Number 13 is a powerful thinking tool to stimulate creativity called zero-based thinking. Zero-based thinking comes from the financial concept, which is zero-based financing or zero-based budgeting. What it says is that you draw a line under all of your previous thinking and you ask yourself over and over again, if we were not now doing things this way, knowing what we now know, would we start doing them this way? If we had not decided to handle this product or service or to embark upon this investment or divestment, knowing what we now know, would we start again? Would we start again? Now, if the question is no, then it's a very good indicator that you're on the wrong track and that you may be staying on the wrong track simply because nobody wants to rock the boat. If the answer in zero-based thinking is yes, it usually means that you're on the right track. So ask yourself over and over again, especially in a problem situation, knowing what we now know about this situation, this person, this investment, so on, would we begin again knowing what we now know? And if the answer is no, then the next question is, how do we begin changing? How do we alter the situation? How do we start over again? Number 14, we call the systematic method of problem solving. It's probably the most powerful method to deal with complex problems that I've ever seen in my life. And it's so simple, it's embarrassing. Number 1 is always assume a logical solution. Your attitude toward a problem is going to determine whether or not you release your creativity or your creativity stays locked up. So assume that there's a logical solution to whatever problem it is. Number 2 is use positive language. Use words like challenge or situation. Use positive language rather than problem or difficulty. Say, boy, this is an interesting challenge facing us. Or this is an interesting situation. Keep your mind positive. Number 3 is define it clearly. What is the situation? Define it clearly, write it down, and come up with a definition that everybody agrees that that is a definition of the problem or situation. Number 4 is ask yourself, what are all the possible causes? Just like a doctor would do a diagnosis to try to find the causes of the problem before you would come up with a prescription. Number 5 is ask yourself, what are all the possible solutions? By the way, most of this method, or part of this method, was developed at Harvard University in one of their creative thinking laboratories. What are all the possible solutions? Number 6 is make a decision. Whatever you do, any decision is probably better than no decision. One critical point, once you make a decision and you start thinking about solutions, then from then on, think and talk only about the solutions. Think and talk exclusively, single-mindedly about solutions. From then on, don't talk about the problems. The difference between positive thinkers and negative thinkers is very simple. Positive thinkers think and talk about solutions all the time. Negative thinkers continue to talk about the problem. Now, the more you think about it and talk about it and vividly imagine, the more you're going to have of it. So if you dwell on the solution, you will get solutions. If you dwell on the problem, you'll have more problems. Number 7 is assign responsibility. Who's going to do it? So assign responsibility. Who is going to do what and by when? And that's number 8, set a deadline. A decision without a deadline is merely a discussion. Set a deadline on who is going to do what by when, and agree specifically and repeat it and get commitment from other people. And number 9 is take action. Take action. Remember, the whole purpose of creative thinking, the whole purpose of innovation, the whole purpose of problem solving is to prepare you and the people around you and your organization to take positive, constructive action toward achieving specific desired results. If action is not taking place, then the whole exercise of creative thinking is just an exercise in intellectual amusement. So always be thinking in terms of action. What are the actions that we're going to take? How are we going to implement this solution? Who is going to be the implementer? Who is going to execute the solution that we come up with? And how is the solution going to be measured? Who is going to be in charge of it? When are we going to review it? How are we going to monitor it? How are we going to test it in the marketplace? How are we going to get feedback to tell us whether or not it's a good idea? Every good solution, by the way, has not only an action plan, but a monitoring, controlling, and testing plan built into it so you can see whether the solution was any good. Number 15, method for stimulating creativity, one of the most powerful methods in the world of business is brainstorming. One of the major responsibilities of management today is to engage their people in brainstorming exercises regularly. You cannot afford to leave the creative potential of your staff untapped. You've got to get them to contribute ideas, and the only way you do it is to bring them together regularly on company time, give them specific problems or company goals to solve or achieve, to work, to get their best thinking out. Now, brainstorming has some key points. I'll give it to you very quickly. Key point number 1 is that you should ideally have 4 to 7 people. 4 to 7 seems to be the best idea to get mental synergy. B is it should be 15 to 45 minutes. Be very specific with the time period, because you don't want a brainstorming session to go all afternoon. 30 minutes is ideal. C is quantity. Go for the greatest number of ideas without evaluation. Don't judge the ideas. Just say, let's see how many different ideas we can come up with to deal with this problem in the next 30 minutes. D, very simple, is record every idea. Record ideas for evaluation later. Leave evaluation out of it. Just concentrate on idea generation. E is the leader should be the facilitator. The leader is just the facilitator, not the person who dominates the conversation, but who encourages everybody else to contribute. In fact, if you're the manager and you're the leader, the less you say, the better. If you're also the recorder, what you can do is just write your ideas down. F is no ridicule. Every idea is okay. The more people laugh in a brainstorming session, the more likely you are to come up with great ideas. The final point here, suspend judgment throughout. Again, suspended judgment is a key part of creative thinking in every single study. It is the tendency for us to judge internally and externally that shuts down the flow of creativity. Judgment attacks our self-esteem, undermines our sense of value, causes us to shut up and to back off. So avoid judgment. Number 16. And these are Drucker's 7 Sources of Innovation. One of the best books ever written on the subject is called Innovation and Entrepreneurship by Peter Drucker, the business genius. He has 7 sources of innovation. In other words, where are the new ideas, products, and processes for your business going to come from for now and the indefinite future? The first source is what he calls the unexpected event. The unexpected success, the unexpected failure, the unexpected event, something that happens that shouldn't happen, that was not expected to happen. For instance, a perfect example, Apple Computer came out and decided to launch a small home computer at a time when IBM looked at the market and said the market wasn't big enough. Apple went out and sold $1 billion worth of computers, and it changed the thinking of not only IBM, but of every major computer manufacturer in the world. It was an unexpected event. The market exploded where it had never been before. Another unexpected event, which everybody knows about, was the oil crisis, the Arab oil embargo, which caused oil prices to go through the ceiling. That creates a tremendous number of opportunities for innovation, new products, new processes, new services. Another is incongruity, an incongruity between reality and what should be. In other words, when things are supposed to happen in a certain way and they don't. You run an ad, you do a campaign, you launch a product or a service, and nothing happens. Or you launch it, and with a little bit of advertising, it explodes. A perfect example is Sir Alexander Fleming's discovery of penicillin. He found that some mold had dropped on an agar dish and had destroyed his experiment. Now, most people would have just taken the dish and thrown it out. What Fleming did is he said, why has this happened? This wasn't supposed to happen. And he discovered penicillin, which, of course, changed the future of longevity and lifespan and everything else. Okay, another major source of innovation is process need. Process need is just simply a breakthrough, a technology, a technique, a system, something that you need inside the company in order to do the job better. A process need is something that you can use to overcome an obstacle, to overcome a limiting factor in production. It's when you sit there and say, how do we get from here to there, and you need a new innovation. And many process needs or many new innovations are coming up as a result of high tech. The fourth one is changes in industry structure. Changes in industry structure as a result of a variety of different things that can happen. Let's look at some of the things that I've got down here. When we had the oil price shock, because of high oil prices, we found that the industry structure changed. People went to small cars, or people went to using less energy. We had the introduction of solar panels. We had the introduction of windmills. We had the introduction of energy-saving devices in the billions of dollars all over the country. So the industry structure changed as the result of something that was totally unexpected. So be on the alert for changes in industry structure. 20 years ago, it was predicted that there would only be 2 major car manufacturers in America by 1990. Right now, there are 26 manufacturers of cars in America. GM, which had the lion's share, has been losing market share consistently for 10 years. Why? Well, because the industry structure has changed as a result of the demand for quality, smaller cars, more efficiency, safety, and so on. Demographic changes are another thing. Demographic changes are a major change that signal opportunities for innovation and entrepreneurship. A demographic change is the number of seniors, yuppies, movement of people from the north and east to the south and west. These are changes that signal tremendous opportunities in home building, construction, styles, insurance, Medicare, and 2 more, changes in perception, changes in values. A perfect example of changes in perception or values is the health boom that's going on now. People are into lifestyle, health, light beer, fresh fruits, salads, and so on and so forth. Creates tremendous market within health foods, spices, herbs, teas, clothes. And finally, new knowledge. New knowledge, which is the least dependable because it takes so long to get into the marketplace, But new knowledge, new technological breakthroughs of any kind can offer innovations that can open the door for whole new industries and multi-million-dollar businesses. Be on the alert for the unexpected events. Even an unexpected success in selling your product or service could tell you that there's a tremendous market opportunity there. This brings us to a simple method called number 17, nominal group technique. Nominal group technique is a very simple technique which just means finish the statement. So you just simply pose a question to a group of people and you have each one of them finish the statement. It's a form of organized brainstorming. Nominal group technique, you could say, for instance, we could double our sales if. We could double our sales if. Then you let people finish the sentence and you encourage them to generate as many ideas as possible to double your sales. We could double our sales if we double our advertising. We could double our sales if we cut our price in half. We could double our sales if our competitors all quit. Maybe we could double our sales if we could differentiate ourselves sufficiently from our competitors. Maybe we could double our sales if we came up with a new product or process or combination thereof. But imagine if there's one chance in 1,000 that you could double your sales. Why not there are 2 chances in 1,000? Why not 3 chances in 1,000? What if there is a way that you could double your sales in the next 12 months and it's lying right under your own feet and you're not finding it because you're not looking for it? So be alert to that. Lateral thinking was pioneered by De Bono, and the best way that De Bono describes this is by saying that when people find themselves in a hole, the natural tendency is for them simply to dig the hole deeper, when actually the solution may be to go somewhere else and dig a totally different hole. Lateral thinking is a way of breaking yourself out of the routinized or habitual ways of thinking. And here's some basic, simple ideas. Reversal is one, where you take words and you reverse their meaning. A perfect example is you take a problem and you call it an opportunity. You say, boy, this is a great opportunity. And then you look into it and you find the great opportunity. Or another way of reversal is you could say, people say, well, our sales are down. Well, you can reverse that and say, no, sales aren't down, purchases are down. In other words, it's not that we are not selling enough, but our customers are not buying enough. Changes the whole focus of the question. Here's another one, random association. Take a look at an apple or an artichoke and say, well, our business is like an apple, or our business is like an orange. On the outside, it looks pretty smooth, but as you get close, you see a lot of bumps. Inside, there's a lot of pits, although there are some juicy parts and so on. Random association means pick words and force the words to fit your situation. Now, here's another one, is the dominant idea. A dominant idea is shift the dominant idea. Another example, which we repeat over and over again, if the dominant idea is that we have a real problem here, maybe the dominant idea is that we have a real profit opportunity. For instance, if the dominant idea is that we're suffering a loss, imagine that the flip side of the loss is a profit. Maybe the loss that we're suffering will enable us to make a profit by doing or changing something else. So look at the dominant idea and shift your attention away from it to maybe the opposite idea. Look at the other person's viewpoint. The other person's viewpoint is where you take a look and you try to see the other person's situation through their eyes and describe it through their eyes, very much as lawyers do. When a lawyer is dealing with a problem with someone else, what he does is an exercise. He argues the case from the other person's point of view, from the other person's legal grounds, before he prepares his own case. And finally, fantasize. Fantasize is a wonderful way of creative thinking. What you do is you imagine you had a magic wand and you could wave it and all of your problems or your major problem would disappear. If that were to happen and you did have this magic wand and you waved it and your problems disappeared, what would your situation look like? Imagine what it would look like if this major obstacle standing in your way were removed. Pretend it is not even there and say, now what difference would that make? What would we do differently? What opportunities would open up for us? What possibilities? And then start to look and see, would it be possible for us to achieve those possibilities even without removing the obstacles? This brings us to number 19. Here are some questions that you can use to spark curiosity. These are questions that you use with regard to your products and services, and they're some of the best questions going. Number one is, could you put your products or services to other uses, other than the uses that they're being applied to now? Could they be put to other uses for other companies, other industries, other customers? Number two is, could we adapt or copy or emulate something else that someone else is doing to make our products or services better? Could you copy something? What are your competitors doing, or what are other people doing that you could copy? Number three is, could you modify or change your existing product so that it looked like or performed like something different? Could you put a new twist in it? Number 4 is, could you magnify the product? Could you add something? Could you make it bigger? Could you make it stronger, higher, longer? Could you increase it in some way in order to make it more attractive? Could you minify the product? Could you make it smaller? Could you break it down into its component parts? Could you sell smaller parts of it? Who else could you use for this product or service? What else could you use? Could you use a different substance, a different process of manufacturing, a different way of distribution, a different way of advertising, a different way of packaging? What could you substitute for your product, your service, or your existing problem? Could you rearrange your product and interchange components in some way? Could you reverse or do the opposite of what you're currently doing? One of the reversals that I used many years ago was, instead of lowering the price to clear out an overstock, I raised the price to clear out an overstock, and because of the higher perceived value, we cleared out product that we had not been able to move for 6 months. Another thing you do is, instead of selling your product, give the product away, but then charge them for the materials that they need for using the product once they have it. And finally, could you combine your product with something else? Could you combine ideas, purposes, appeals? Could you put it together to make higher value? Number 20 is what is called the value engineering principle, which just simply asks some really key questions. Number 1 is, what is it? Describe it through the mind of a consumer. What does it do? What does it do? These are very, very simple techniques to look at innovations. C is, what does it cost? And D, what else will do the same job? And E is, what does that cost? For instance, what this does very often is it leads you to outsourcing. It leads you to seeing that instead of doing it internally, yes, we could produce it internally, but if you put all this together, we could do it outsourced. We could get another company to produce it that has better capacities, better facilities, and so on. Number 21 is criteria for judging your ideas. Ideas are a dime a dozen. 99 out of 100 ideas are no good. That 80%, 90% of all innovations that make it to the marketplace after testing and research fail. Here's how you can judge your ideas so you can increase your success rate, lower your failure rate. Here's some questions. First of all, is it effective? Will it work? That's the first question. Will it work, and will it work meaningfully? Is it a good enough idea? Is it going to make a meaningful difference or a meaningful improvement? Number 2, is it efficient? Is it a significant improvement over what is currently being done? I've seen many people come into the market with products or services, and they say, well, people will buy it because we're really going to sell it hard. But you have to ask, what's going to stop them from buying something that they already have, that they're happy with, and buy yours? Just because you're selling it? Just because you're producing it? Just because you'll make a profit on it? Your product always has to be a significant improvement over what currently exists. Is it compatible with human nature? In other words, is it compatible with the way people like to shop? You heard about television shopping a few years ago. You don't hear about television shopping. People buying their groceries and their clothes and everything by ordering through a department store through a television modem. Do you know why? It's because human beings like to touch, taste, smell, feel, and they like the experience of live shopping. People will never do much television shopping except for straight commodity items because it's contrary to human nature. Is it compatible with your goals? When you come up with an idea, remember, you could have a great idea, but if the idea is not compatible with what you want to accomplish with your life, if you don't love the idea enough to want to commit yourself wholeheartedly to it, maybe you should pass it on to someone else. Number 5, is the timing right? Is it practical now? Sometimes an idea is too soon or too late. Is the timing right for this idea? For instance, you may have a great idea for a luxury product, but if it's in the middle of a recession, it's not a good idea. You may have a great idea for a discount product, but if it's in the middle of a boom, people don't care that much. Is it feasible? Is it worth it? Is it a feasible idea, and is it worth it to engage in the activity, the cost, the expense to produce it? And finally, is it simple? That's the final question, because in the final analysis, almost all great innovations and breakthroughs are simple. They can be explained in 25 words or less. The customer in the marketplace can hear a description of the innovation and say, yes, that's good. That makes sense. That's what I want. I'll take it. That's what I need. I can use it. I can afford it. In other words, it has to be simple because it has to be designed, packaged, and sold by ordinary people. And ordinary people are not necessarily that competent. It has to be bought by ordinary people. And ordinary people are not geniuses. They don't have the time, the effort to think through the product. So is the idea simple? I'll just refer you back to the superconscious capability, your intuitive mind. And I'll tell you this, from that mind you will get great breakthrough ideas. If you know what you want, if you accept your innate intelligence, if you look upon yourself as a creative person, if you repeat over and over again, I am a genius, I am a genius, I am a genius, you will be able to stimulate creativity, come up with breakthrough ideas, come up with answers to your problems, come up with creative solutions with greater speed in the next 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 months than you currently believe possible. You can become one of the great creative managers of your generation.